I took away a lot from the situation with the courts and my mental health. The first thing I can advise anybody when it comes to, going to the court system, pay for an attorney, pay for a lawyer. I made the mistake of having a public defender, someone who didn't take into aspect everything that had been going on in my life. Even though I had my documentation, like when I went, I had my documentation. I did 45 days at a VA clinic in Martinsburg, West Virginia. 45-day mental health program for people with PTSD, bipolar.
Was this right after we saw each other?
No, this was oh yes, actually, yeah.
Yeah, when you was at the skate ring and I had to talk to you?
Yeah. This is. It was maybe a month later.
Yeah.
Because I've been trying that whole summer to kind of get into this program. Mm-hmm. But, and the biggest thing with that program was really just seeing how I adjusted with the medication and then, also, I guess, being there and talking to other veterans and realizing, other issues that veterans were having.
All right, so what are the name of these shoes?
New Balance. It says 9060. So they're not the 993s or anything like that. Mm-hmm. There are different.
Why are New Balances so important in DC?
I mean, it's become a cultural thing, I guess, but I mean, you still can't beat the comfort of walk that you get in New Balances. It's still, a walking city. Public transportation, still we walk a lot.
Did you grow up with New Balances?
Yeah.
What's your favorite New Balance story?
Actually, I guess getting a pair of New Balances from my church, because it was during the age where I was outgrowing like a lot of my shoes. I was getting going through I guess puberty and all that. So I was growing, and one time the church just had some New Balances to give away. I took they weren't like the, how can I put it, the black people series of New Balances with like 990s or 993s. No, these were like the white people. These were like the white people walking shoes, New Balances. But like I remember getting them and like still like sporting them. And people still thinking they were kind of cool because they were New Balances. But these weren't like the popular, series of the Balances. But yeah, I do remember getting them from the church.
Okay. What makes a New Balance a New Balance?
I'm really gonna say makes a New Balance a New Balance. I can't say really, because the classic New Balance to me is always going to be this color. So it can be like a gray and white type of color scheme. And I guess but New Balance is like you can get them in all the colors. Baltimore, you go out there. They want it hard too. They compete with us with the New Balances, but like y'all go out there and some of their shops have all the colorways of New Balances. So any smart DC person kind of knows like you kind of want to go maybe Baltimore to kind of get certain colors.
So who did it first, Baltimore or DC?
DC all the way. Baltimore did a good job, copying it and like putting it in their stores too, but nah. Come on, it's DC.
That copying that part sounds like an accusation. Anywho, let's talk about mental health. What are your feelings on mental health?
Mental health right now, I feel like we're definitely moving in a better direction for mental health, less mental health access, mental health advocacy. We're definitely, I think, with the millennials in our generation, kind of, advocating more for mental health. I don't think you saw it as much in my mom's generation, and Lord forbid, like my grandmother's generation. My grandmother was also bipolar, so I know like she had to go through a lot of the. I guess when mental health wasn't as structured or studied as it is now. Mm-hmm. So those early, kind of maybe post, I want to say mental health asylums. So when we had that shift from asylums to actual, private physicians, making these choices. But now I feel like we're definitely moving in the right direction. We're definitely moving in the direction to find better medications and for treatment. And so I think it's going good.
Okay. Have you what is your understanding of bipolar?
Well, bipolar is a mood disorder. So I want to say, kind of my understanding of it is, your mood can fluctuate, your emotions can fluctuate when you're not regulated. That's why when bipolar people, you'll get medicated for just bipolar, but you'll also get medicated a lot of times with antipsychotics, because the range of where you can go, especially if you're in a manic episode, it goes more. You become more psychotic, more delusional. So I definitely do see why they will dual treat it with 2 different medications. But for me, obviously the psychotic part of the treatment is more of an extreme. You're still more relying on your mood stabilizer. For me, it's Depakote. There's other ones. Every one of them have different, I would say different side effects. And with me and my journey, it's always been about seeing how the medication, treats me, how I feel on it, and if I need to make those changes, if I ever feel like it's not fitting, or it's not helping, or if I need to increase to something that, especially with the VA and my psychiatrist, that I always know, like, I can just go and, hey, we need to try something new, we need to try something different, or hey, I might have to check in for a weekend and readjust this medication and see how I feel, where it's going. But I guess in my journey, I feel like I have the independence because I have the VA supporting me.
As you brush those shoes, tell me about the importance of the VA. You could add a little bit more to that, man. Make sure that thing wet. Appreciate you. Good solution.
Well, the VA to me is very important. I mean, number one, it's free healthcare. People don't look at it like that, but it's a service that every veteran gets for, deploying and serving your country. And I think, some don't have to deploy to get the VA insurance, but getting that free VA health care, especially in a time where, most employers aren't paying for good health insurance, so we have higher co-pays. I don't have a copay. I don't have anything I pay. It's just completely free. So it would be, almost, I don't get people who don't use it. I don't understand not using that service, not, trying to better yourself, especially when it's like, you're not guaranteed to get health care in anywhere else. You're not guaranteed, you might have a job that gives it to you, but then, like I said, like, you're still paying higher co-pays and deductibles. The VA insurance, we don't have that. And we don't have the whole shifting from doctor to doctor. Your psychiatrist can change, but not as frequently, I think, with the VA. Like some, people who do private therapy and psychiatrists, like your psychiatrist might change every year. Your therapist might change every year, depending, like, even how long you take that, if it's 16 weeks of therapy. After that, you might not be able to have that same therapist. So you have to build a new relationship with somebody, or explain to your psychiatrist, hey, well, this is what me and my past psychiatrist was already working on. Don't get me wrong, it's probably in the notes and you can read it, but still having that same person for, an extended period of time, let's say at the very least 2 to 3 years, that's pretty good for for everybody's treatment. Because you're not having that adjustment time. You're not having to get used to a new physician. You're continuously going. So that's one thing I also think with the VA, because I know people who have that issue. Like I said, with the VA though, I've been my psychiatrist pretty much for 2 or 3 years, so since I've been there. So
Gets real splashy over here.
Oh, I'm pressing too hard.
No, you good. Just giving a heads up. Don't be afraid to splash. Do what you gotta do.
Yes, indeed.
So you're a vet.
Yes, and actually my veteran status is I'm a vet, but only because I deployed. So you might, like, with people in different branches, like or different parts of the Army service. So you have Army, National Guard, which is every state has a National Guard, Maryland, Virginia. But then you have the Army Reserve for every, which are, obviously in every state too. And you have full active duty Army. So with the Guard, at one point in time, we could never get veteran status. It wasn't until after 9/11 that when the active Army needed more people, they said, all right, well, let's just deploy the National Guard with us. And it kind of goes uncredited for a lot of us that, the people who were just, drilling during the weekends, still having to keep up, their physical fitness, the same way as active duty Army has to keep up their physical fitness. So we're in the gym, we're doing all this, working out, but we're doing it while we're actually working other jobs. We still have to stay, well trained and maintained and shoot every year the same way active duty does. But there's a difference, because if you never deploy, you'll never get that veteran status. So which kind of really detrimental because even in National Guard, people who get veteran status, if you get in trouble, we try not to penalize you enough to where they take that away from you. So if you get an honorable discharge, means you'll never get veteran status. You'll never get the VA help or the VA money or the health insurance. None of that. In the National Guard, I've seen them be a lot lenient because they know, like, all right, even though we have to kick you out, we still want you to be able to get those veteran benefits because it's something that, like I said, like a lot of people in the Guard never get. So for me, my one deployment, where I went to Kuwait and Iraq, that's how I got that status and was able to really come back and then take my mental health seriously with that free insurance. So. I got myself. Splashed myself.
How would you say the law views mental health?
How would I say the law what?
The law views mental health.
The law, I think, has gotten better with understanding mental health, but they're not giving out really an excuse for certain behaviors because of mental health. I think they are accepting that there are people in society that have mental health issues and do need help other than just being in prison. So I think they've realized that. So that's where you're finding more a little bit of exemption when it comes to certain, I guess, punishments under the law. But I think they're handling it the best they can.
Do you have a mental health journey that involves the law?
Yes. During my a manic state, I guess being bipolar, you can be bipolar depressed, depression, or be more manic with an episode. And during that episode, or during that time, I had a run-in with the law due to my own, my own wrongdoing. But I ended up assaulting somebody, and
someone you care about.
Someone I care about, yes. Ended up assaulting my father-in-law, actually, someone who provided and took care of my son. So I ended up assaulting my father-in-law and destroying a car. And to this day, I've never looked back. It's an actual video that one of the neighbors or somebody else in the apartment building recorded of me destroying a car with my bare hands, breaking the windows and doing all this and that, and don't have the heart to even go back and look at that video. Never have. Once I heard it was out enough. So I had to run in with the law, and luckily enough, when they did encounter me, they it wasn't guns drawn or anything like that. I think I was so rational enough, especially from my previous work as being a federal protective security or federal security officer and doing a lot of law enforcement training. I kind of understand how to react in certain situations. If I don't give them a reason to do anything, if I comply, I'll just generally be safe. And that's how it should be with a lot of these situations. But it's harder when you're dealing with manic people who might not have that, or psychotic people who might not have that rationalization. That I have to, all right, the law is here now. I have to stay calm for my for my livelihood or for my own sake, or this can escalate to something a lot worse. So, and actually, I've had 2 different run-ins during my manic episode with the cops, and every time, I complied. It was never an issue. That time where I actually assaulted my father-in-law, they didn't lock me up. They took me to a hospital. They took me to it was a MedStar hospital in Olney, Maryland, and they took me there to the ER. They knew I was having mental health issues, and they asked me, what type of medication you're taking, and they suggested, well, hey, maybe you should be taking. They didn't. Then they gave me a dosage of it. Hey, well, if you're bipolar and you're manic, then you should have this medication. You should take this. And so from there, I went on to the VA and had that updated. But initially, I was just lucky that they didn't, throw me in the back of that car and lock me up. They actually took me to be treated. So that was a big thing.
Looking back at that time, how much of that episode do you remember?
Surprisingly enough, I remember it all. I'm not sure, I remember everything. You know, the rage, the anger. Yeah, I remember everything. It's not like something that like I blocked out, or so it's been something that I guess focus on. I've been able to go back and look at it and understand, that the issue of that time. But yeah, I remember it all.
What difference would you say the medicine has made for you in your life prior medication and after medication?
Well, I want to say my mental health journey, it started me, I guess, maybe taking the symptoms of me being bipolar, but kind of just saying, oh, this is just depression, this is anxiety, or this is, maybe it's ADHD, maybe I need some Adderall. And so before I got with the VA, I did have my, private therapist and psychiatrist. And that's when I started with the Xanax, and I forget whatever one I was taking, like maybe Lexapro for depression, and taking Adderall. But then after having my manic episode and actually realizing the different fluctuations in the mood, like, that medication wasn't helping, obviously. It didn't help when I got manic. It wasn't, really helping during that time. But I was still working. I was still trying it, still talking to my psychiatrist about it and worrying about dosages and all that stuff. But it wasn't until really I got, really a mood stabilizer. Yet again, finding that right medication for your disorder. Once I got that mood stabilizer, and I was able to really just calm down and then reflect a little bit. And that's what it kind of allowed me. That's what I feel like it does, just keeping me balanced. And that's what it's supposed to be. It's a mood stabilizer. With being bipolar, your mood, your reality can kind of change, given whatever, stressful or traumatic environment you might be in, or whatever anxious environment you might be in.
Go ahead and brush those. We're going to give you a brush session. You just go ahead.
Yeah, let me switch to toothbrush.
Yeah, there you go. Getting that detail, every nook and cranny and stuff.
Look at that, make it a little frothy.
Froth makes a difference. Would you say your friends and family played any part in your episodes in terms of maybe the recovery or the triggers?
I feel like during that time, my mom and my grandmother did, at a certain point in time, they became like my support system. This is after I had separated from my wife, moved out. My friendship during that time, I really didn't rely on any friends. I think as it was happening, as my manic episode was happening, though, I did have two close friends who kind of, saw, and they were there to support, see what I was going through. But when it came to actually me, getting medicated, or when it came to me just being in the full manic episode, everyone else, I kind of, even those friends, I kind of already pushed them away. And then, I just relied on, my family. Came back to, because I was separated from them. I was in Montgomery County, which is not that far, 45 minutes to, maybe an hour if it's traffic. But I was, it wasn't that far. But when it happened and I'm separated from my wife, I felt like, during that time, wasn't as supportive, as she could have been. But I still, I won't blame her fully for that. Still, you're dealing with somebody who's, manic, so what do you do as a spouse? But definitely my mother was one who was like, hey, no, you're bipolar. You're not just dealing with depression and anxiety. She's like, I'm bipolar. Your grandma's bipolar. It runs in the family. So she actually, went with me to the VA ER. Her and my dad, drove me up there. She told him straight, hey, he's bipolar. He needs this and that medication. And then from there, she was involved with my doctors, my psychiatrists. When I think I went to the VA hospital two times, maybe a total of 7-8 days. The first time, I think, is when they added the antipsychotic, because I was obviously manic. The second time when they added the mood stabilizer, and both ended up just balancing out for me. But it took a while. It took at least maybe a month for everything to get adjusted and for me to get certain medications, and that involved, like I said, 2 different stays at the VA psych ward, and which again I was lucky to have that, because comparatively some other psych wards or some other places in DC are just aren't as good. A little more, just aren't as good as something like the VA.
When you think about the direction the country is going in, with maybe defunding the VA, how important are the resources for the VA for veterans that are coming back home or that are currently home dealing with mental health issues?
It's very important. And sorry to take it to the extreme when it comes to it being important, but if you look at the guy who just did the New Orleans terrorist attack, this was, a second generation, most likely, immigrant. He was Muslim, but
Just
he was an
came out
Army
of
veteran.
2 divorces also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was an Army veteran. He had access to, to the VA, to the healthcare and all that stuff, which, obviously he should have used during that time. But like, imagine these people coming back, or veterans who serve and all that, and not having any access to mental health resources. And a lot of us need it, because a lot of us, and there's, mental health is, obviously a spectrum, but a lot of people, regardless of the service, need help with depression or anxiety, and that's the very base, the very bottom, I guess, for, mental health or certain ailments people can have. But to take that away is to really destabilize a whole group of people. If you destabilize your veterans, and veterans do so much for the community, in the sense that these are the people who fill in those DOD contracted jobs because they have security clearance. These are those people who go to law enforcement. These are those people who go into becoming first responders, nurses. Like, they fill such an important role, and these are underpaid jobs. So they benefit from having that extra VA money if it comes to getting money for school, if it comes to getting money like just for your VA disability, because your mental health, you can't claim as a VA disability and get a separate, along with the healthcare, you can get a separate, monthly amount of money, which you can then, turn back into your own health. Like, if you had a physical ailment, like people who have like back or shoulder issues or leg issues or anything like that, the extra VA money is money you have to spend on that physical therapy or that chiropractor or something else that, now because of that, small disability, your life is, changed, and you could use that extra money to help with certain things. But really thinking about taking people or taking away money from the VA, you're going to lose not just only those veterans, but you're going to lose, less people are going to join. You're going to lose that recruitment numbers. Our numbers are already very low. We've dropped a lot of standards when it comes to how smart people need to be in, like our test scores, called the ASVAB. But we've dropped those just to get more people to enroll and come in and enlist. But even then, if they found out that you're not taking care of the veterans afterwards, if it's not the same benefits that we've already had, why would I join? So to me, they're not looking at the aspect of like also losing future recruits, because they'll judge you the same way. They'll judge you like, hey, no, you're not going to treat us good when we get out. There's not going to be the same benefits when we get out. Why would we join?
He's doing a sensational job. How old are these sneakers?
Maybe two years old. Never been clean.
So they're more of the new chunkier design of New Balances.
Yeah. I mean, you could also tell by, really how they're doing the thicker soles on them. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it's still, I won't lie, it still asks for more comfort. Because, New Balances are, or walking shoes. They're not, to me, they're not really running shoes. They have made some better running shoes.
Yeah.
But the ones that people are wearing, those are for casual wear, for walking. They're not, these can be good, kind of hybrid-wise, because, like I said, because of this, this thicker sole, that you can run on them more. But
yeah,
New Balances really aren't, or weren't originally made to be running shoes. They're made to be walking or casual wear.
Okay. So what does it mean to walk a day in your shoes?
I think if you to walk a day in somebody's shoes, and I guess for me it shouldn't be people should be more understanding when it comes to walking a day in somebody's shoes, only in the sense that like we all come from like the same environments in a point. Like we all have the same opportunities within that environment, same routes or same things we can choose to do. So when it comes to like, if someone had to, I would say walk in my shoes, then that's a person who comes from a certain background, or you at least understand it if you came from a certain background. So I guess, walking in my shoes, you want me to say like specifically what it would be like walking in my shoes, or how do I understand?
What's the burden or blessing that comes from walking in your shoes?
Oh, that's good. Okay. I guess, walking in my shoes as a black man, but also a veteran, but now someone with, mental health, or, a mental health, can say, well, just being bipolar, let's put it like that. So someone in my shoes, someone being bipolar, but also being a veteran. And, but also for me, I'm lucky enough, like, when it comes to walking in my shoes, like I still have a solid family structure. So that's something that does make me, and it does change me. It's something that, me having like, having dependable uncles, a dad, other male role models in my life, like that kind of also like changed me. So with people, I guess, when it comes to like walking in my shoes, it would be more or less, I guess, kind of understanding the importance of your decisions. Because see, my route, I guess, to me has been easier because I made certain choices. I made certain, sacrifices. Like I decided to do certain things. Like I decided to, take on school and actually, make that a requirement from like, even though it took me 10 years, I think maybe to get a diploma for my bachelor's, I went to maybe 3 different colleges and stuck it out online after having a kid and working a job just to finish out this degree. And so, I mean, like walking in my shoes, like there was some choices and some sacrifices, small ones though, that I, that I made, even coming from having that, actually having that, family background of having like a mom, a dad, and having also that family structure. I still, made choices to be independent, made choices to, still better myself. So, yeah. But then, let me finish that. But then it's also, I guess, a big part of walking in my shoes, also being, make that decision to be like an active or a good dad. Like walking in my shoes is also like taking that responsibility of, really of childcare, because for me, I see my son about 3.5 days out the week. Pick him up from school, drop him off, and I have him, so I don't just have him on the weekends. I have him Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday morning because I picked up a part-time job now. But yeah, walking in my shoes also means being a dad. Also means like being an active dad though. Like I love like finding new events and new things for me and my son to do. If it's hiking, if it's going to like we go to Bladensburg waterfront, for bike riding or like any events that's in the area. Like I get a lot of enjoyment really in my life from just doing that or spending time with my son and actually, raising him. He made honor roll this past year, and like, I didn't try to take anything away from my wife with it, but like, I do know like, like when he was in pre-K, when me and her were still together, he didn't go to pre-K. Like I had a telework job at the time. I stayed home, but like what I did in his free time was like, yo, you got to learn your numbers. You have to learn your alphabets. And it wasn't like a rush. I had like a whole year to do it, but like now that he's in 2nd grade, he got a 4.0, or, made honor roll, did perfect. But that's because like I think me having that time really helped. Me having that time with him. So yeah, walking in my shoes, I think, yeah, it's a lot. I said a lot of decisions or choices you have to make to have a certain life, or to have, to come to, I guess, a positive outcome with a lot of things.
Congratulations.
That's a big brush. That's a big brush.
Back to mental health and the law. I remember there was a story you told me about how the courts were still looking to get you locked up during that episode, even though they were aware that you were having a mental health emergency. Tell me about that time and how that changed you as a person.
I think I took away a lot from the situation with the courts and my mental health. The first thing I can advise anybody when it comes to, going to the court system, pay for an attorney, pay for a lawyer. I made the mistake of having a public defender, someone who didn't take into the aspect everything that had been going on in my life. Even though I had my documentation, like when I went, I had my documentation. I did 45 days at a VA clinic in Martinsburg, West Virginia. 45-day mental health program for people with PTSD, bipolar.
Was this right after we saw each other?
No, this was oh yes, actually, yeah.
Yeah, when you was at the skate ring and I had to talk to you?
Yeah. This is. It was maybe a month later.
Yeah.
Because I've been trying that whole summer to kind of get into this program. Mm-hmm. But, and the biggest thing with that program was really just seeing how I adjusted with the medication and then, also, I guess being there and talking to other veterans and realizing, other issues that veterans were having. But yeah, so I went away for 45 days and I thought, and I do think it did help.
Yeah.
But when I went to this court, I thought, well, first thing I need to show is that, hey, I sought treatment. I'm seeking treatment to be better or to find help. Mm-hmm. So I brought in that letter saying, hey, I spent 45 days here. Here's my letter from my psychiatrist saying that I've been with her for the past 2 years or year and a half, that I'm making all my appointments, that I'm taking my medication, At the very least, that's also what you need to have. But you want a lawyer that can present that in your favor. You also want a lawyer that's going to tell you, hey, bring up to the judge your life. What else have you been doing? Like my public defender didn't tell me to mention anything about, hey, you're a veteran. Hey, you worked as a federal protective security officer. It's a different title because when you work for a federal branch, you get certain titles, but certain arrest authority. But like, those are things I should have been mentioning to the judge. Like, oh, hey, I'm in school right now. Hey, I have a son that I see 2.5, 3 days a week. I'm a dad, These would have been things that, obviously would have made it, the judgment a little more lenient, I think. With an actual lawyer, they'll tell you to do these things. My public defender did not. So when this case happened, he didn't focus on any of that. We didn't talk about any of those things. I just knew to bring my paperwork just in case I had to, prove a point. But the real thing that got me off was really the forgiveness from my father-in-law. Because they asked him first, like, are you okay with him getting a plea deal? And right away he was like, yes, of course. Like, there's no issue with that. But when it came, like I said, when it came to the court, it was only like they didn't care about the treatment I sought. And I feel like I still got, they didn't give me any jail time. I got supervised probation for a year. But it could have been unsupervised. It was something even more lenient. It could have been unsupervised probation. But at no point did I advocate, I think, for myself, or did my lawyer tell me to advocate for myself? Like, tell them who you are, explain to the courts what you've been doing. No, it's more like I came to him and I'm like, hey, I have this documentation. Like, what are we going to do? He told me, no, they're looking for jail time. Something we didn't discuss previously, something I didn't know I was facing. And they wanted the full punishment. And obviously, like, for me, I'm like, if they have that video of me destroying a car that I've never seen, but if they have that as evidence, if this goes to actual, trial, yeah, I'm looking at that jail time. So I was lucky enough, like I said, to really get supervised probation. I think with an actual lawyer, I might have got unsupervised probation at the least. But yeah, when it comes to mental health, you still have to, I think, take the same steps I took. Show them that you are getting treatment. Show them that you are taking this seriously, and that you're trying to, obviously not make that same mistake again. You still have to do that, but also I don't advise having a public defender if you're not gonna, to advocate for yourself. Tell them, about your life. Tell them, the positive things that you've been doing. So, yeah.
Would you say in general, from your experience, that's probably how the court system handles mental health emergencies when it makes it to the court?
Nah. I mean, I feel like maybe in some areas, mm-hmm. I feel like it definitely depends on where that court is. There's still some, local politics, local laws, or things that differ
Yeah.
from obviously state to state, and maybe how liberal your state is and how much punishment they give out. But repeat the question again so I can finish that off.
Would you say that's probably how the court handles mental health cases in general?
Okay, yeah. So I don't agree that. Yeah. So I don't. I guess answer a question like that would be more of like, do they treat certain crimes differently, or they treat certain people differently based on their mental health?
Mental health emergencies or not?
Yeah. So at a certain point in time, like they're still being, I guess fair or equitable across the board, saying that hey, you committed this crime, mental health or not, we still have to give you a certain amount of time. But like I said, the best thing you can do is bring in the fact that that you're seeking help, or that you've been doing treatment, and that this was a mistake or a one-time thing. I'm trying to prevent this from happening again. That's how it is for me. Like if I had to speak for myself, I would say, hey, like, I know this was a mistake, and I know for the rest of my life I need to prevent this from happening again, because I need to prevent my mental health from obviously making my life worse. Obviously, or taking me down the rabbit hole where now I have a criminal record for a certain amount of time, or now I've committed a crime and now my whole life is shifted because I still have to deal with the fact that my misdemeanor, it's a misdemeanor, it doesn't come off my record at least for 3 years, and even then it'll be so that's a time where in 3 years I can't have a certain job.
Yeah.
I can't work a certain place. So also that's why it does kind of behoove you to actually show that you're getting treatment, show something, because at the very least you have something different from other let's say other criminals or other people who committed crimes. Like you have something different to say, like, oh no, this was a mistake. I know it was a mistake. I want to do better, and I am doing better. So that's what I try to prove with having those documents saying, no, I went to the VA for 7 days at the psych ward. Here's what they said. Here's the medication they put me on. Here's what I've been doing.
Yeah.
To, like I said, make sure this doesn't happen again. So.
Have you talked to your son about what you've dealt with when it comes to mental health?
Well, actually, no, not at his age. I did have to explain something. He did see me in a manic state. He was there when I did, he was, they took him upstairs and got him away from there, but he was, there when he knows I destroyed the car. He knows I was that angry. And the only thing I've talked to him more about is really, when it comes to my mental health, is really like telling him, like, especially when it came to the anger, I had to like tell him, like, hey, like, that was a mistake. This, I don't want to ever be like that again in my life. I've told myself this is something that, I want to prevent. And I want to show you that side. Anger is a real emotion, but you have to understand how to handle it. I didn't handle it well. So I had that talk with him at this young age because I had to. Like, he saw that rage. So it was just, I think, the best thing for me to explain that to him.
Would you say there were a lot of things personally that spilled over into that episode that you were holding and carrying?
Yeah, but nothing I thought about during the time. I didn't think about.
Give it the big dip. Give it the big dip over there. Yeah, big dip.
During the time being manic, it wasn't like a thought of why I was doing it. I don't think. Just that raw emotion, and that really just, I would say when it comes to being manic, you are a little delusional, or not as connected to reality. So your emotions really don't have you can't really pinpoint a reason sometimes for why you're doing it outside of just those raw like feelings of anger or rage or being upset. But definitely during that time with my manic episode, everything in my life was changing. Yet again, like one of the biggest things how I can describe, especially during that incident, that was an incident over, me spending time with my son. That was something like I was adjusting to the separation. This new separation. I kind of trying to explain this to my ex-wife. Like, I already spent 9 months away from my son when he was first born. I deployed. Like I had, we had to induce her labor so I could see him be born. Right before I flew out, went to Kuwait. 2 weeks later, was in Iraq and Baghdad. Like my first Father's Day, I was in Baghdad. And then I was lucky enough, like they had, my wife during that time, so my friends had sent me like the pictures He took like professional pictures of my son, and you know, had it shipped to me to kind of help me out. But like I said, I already spent 9 months away from him. So when, you know, me being this manic episode ended up with like me trying to push away my spouse and like, yo, yeah, I gotta leave. It's not working for me. I didn't really take into aspect like, yet again, losing time with my son and what that separation was going to do to me. So, you know, during that manic episode, when I was first encountered with that, like, oh, it's my day for my son. I don't have him. I went out there to go get him. He wasn't there at the house during the time. She told me her mom had took him for a walk. I waited for like an hour. I'm like, so where's my son? Why is he not here? What's going on? And that kind of caused me to, you know, flip out. But in between this, the separation, it was the fact that I lost a job for my first time. Actually, it was the second time. I lost my teleworking job. Before that, I went on FMLA leave from NASA and was unemployed. They tried to move me to another site that wasn't paying as much. So I had to quit from there and get another job. But like during that year, I've already been through, you know, 2 different jobs trying to make this work. I was already paying all the bills and I had all this debt and had faced an eviction already that year. Had a repo that happened that year. So all this within a year, and these are things that, you know, if I was talking to a lawyer, had my lawyer, you know, trying to tell me to bring up a mention or, you know, express your side of what was going on, you can obviously maybe get something, you know, more lenient from the judge. But like I said, like during that time, I wasn't really taking into account everything that was going on, why it was going on. I was just reacting.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I need some more depth. I need more water.
What's one piece of advice you'd give to someone in a similar position as you?
The best advice I can give anybody in a situation, you know, that I'm in, I guess with being bipolar, is commit to treatment. Commit to, you know, being medicated. Find that medication that works for you. Declaring to your doctor, like, straight up, hey, this medication, because a lot of, when it comes to, you know, taking different mental health, you know, medications, like, some of them can have side effects. Some of them might not be right for you. The dosage might not be right for you. It might need to be increased, especially during times of need. Like, you have to know that, hey, if you're going through an actual crisis or if something traumatic is happening in your life, like when I lost my grandmother this past year, 2 months ago.
Yeah.
When I lost her, I knew immediately, like, okay, usually during this time, people have, you know, emotional swings, or, you know, this can be a very anxious time for people. I need to make sure that, number one, I don't slip up. I need to keep taking my medication. And if I feel like it's still becoming too much, I need to be able to go to my psychiatrist. And for me, it's pretty easy. You know, with the VA, I can just send a message to her, tell her, hey, we might need to up this medication. You know, I need a little more during this time because I'm going through this or that. And that's really what I would advise anybody to do. Like, really be committed to the treatment that you're receiving, and know and try to advocate for yourself and find that best medication, you know, the medication that works best for you. So, yeah.
As a vet, what's one thing that you think people don't understand about what it feels like to return home from war?
I guess one thing I would say, a few things I would say, when you come back from a war, from being in any, because there's different other conflicts that has been happening over the past 20 years. And a lot of people have gone to different areas in the Middle East, Europe. But one of the biggest things I felt like coming back was I guess the raw realization of like what an actual war is, or how it's actually done, like the actual, what these different conflicts mean, like. And for me, in a sense, it kind of made me more, I would say, more patriotic, in a sense, like fully understanding like what we're doing or what the government's doing and how we, I guess, and how war is. It made me a little more patriotic, but I can see how certain aspects of war turn people, open their eyes in a more, a more realistic sense, and they might be more, I can't say nihilistic, but you'll find some people who come back from war and like are devastated by it. Like for me, and everybody's experience is different. It depends on like what point in the conflict you went. Like I went to Iraq, but I went to Iraq for ISIS. I didn't go under Saddam. I didn't go under a hunt for for Saddam. I went just because ISIS was in the north, so it was a different type of conflict, different type of war. But everybody's conflict, or every theater in which you deploy in, that's what we call them, different theaters in which you deploy in, everyone goes through, to me, different things. An Afghanistan deployment during a certain time would have been a lot more horrific. It would have been a little different. An Iraqi deployment 5 years, 6 years prior, even 10 years prior, when deployments used to be a year long, 2 years, not a year, like 2 years long when we first went into Iraq. So every, war coming back opens everybody up to like, I think, we like a different aspect of life, like seeing like, I would say seeing the empire rule, because that's how, that's what a lot of people take away from it, like being on the American side, like seeing what it is like when, an empire displays its force. So, yeah.
Right now, we've kicked off the new year, and we're starting to see attempts of violence on American territory. What are your thoughts on the buildup that we're starting to see?
It's a lot of different thoughts. With the violence in America, because we're getting it from so many different fronts. The school shooter violence that we're getting, you have to blame that on domestic terrorism, but that's being done by white people doing more domestic terrorism when it comes to shooting up schools. But then you also have the Islamic, or the extremists, obviously with New Orleans doing certain things. And even then, looking at that, you're still looking at those who aren't, some of them aren't fresh immigrants. Some of these immigrants have been here for a while, like he was actually born here, but you have that issue.
Born and raised Texas.
And then you have you have Trump and him talking about anti-immigration, like, but trying to really tell people where he needs to be telling people, like, no, we need to enforce legal immigration. I get that. Even national security wise, you have to enforce legal immigration. I get that, but the guy in the Guatemalan immigrant in New York, like, you really set your people back. Like, you were an immigrant, you had that immigrant status, meaning like really you probably came here in the last 2 to 3 years under Biden.
Yeah.
When Texas was, shipping migrants to urban cities to show America, like, you're gonna have to change this. We can't help them, but we'll show you in these urban cities what happens when you have mass amounts of migrants coming to your city. Now, that, that also plays into, like, obviously the crime aspect, 'cause that's what the Republicans are, always trying to blame the migrants for, is increasing the crime. No, but on the extremist side of it, yes, you did have the extreme example of it in New York, so that does give them more power to kind of, say, hey, well, now we have to, do something with these immigrants. Yeah, forced legal immigration, when it comes to deporting them, deport the criminals we already caught. That's a big step. If he just does that, that's something positive that you've done for immigration, but, not a witch hunt.
Yeah, not a mass exodus.
Yeah, just take the criminals that we've already captured that needed to be deported anyway, deport them. And if you're talking about really catching or getting anybody else, you're getting those ones that just came here in the past 3 to 4 years that's living in New York or Chicago, some of these homeless shelters, or just out in the streets. Like, you already know where they are. They're not, they're not, can't say hidden, but, you already know where some of these people are because they have no place to go. You sent them to these cities and just made them homeless. So on that part of immigration or crime or whatever, I can get that. But crime now is, what they're talking about stopping is pretty hard because, we're America. We have all these guns. We have extremists of every race who are, given a certain, ammunition or given a certain reason, like they will do a lot of bad things. You look at, be honest, you look at the white liberals also committing crimes too. Yeah, attempted assassinations, on the president. I'm not saying I rooted for the white liberals and that, but at least they're doing something. But you still have the, extremists on the conservative side, like in those, in those southern states where, you have more guns, you have armed population, but you have a lot of legal guns, and how these legal guns getting across the border into Mexico, how these illegal guns get into these urban cities that we're using. So when it comes to crime, it's a lot you have to do to kind of stop it, but you have to look at everybody and how they're contributing to it, because it's not just one group.
Yeah.
It's not just one group contributing to it. You have, every ethnicity, every race that's committing crime.
After cleaning your shoes, what would you say your shoes say about your journey?
I guess it would be more on what they would say about my journey. Well, even then, the appearance of the shoe, it has to be clean. It's a little dirty, but it's not ragged. It's not ripped. It's not torn. And in my journey, I still had to, had the opportunity to, if I ever wanted to, just replace the shoes if they ever got that bad. But you see with a shoe that, that you can have 2-3 years, that's, not that beat up, that's still kind of wearable. Even on my journey, I guess it still shows that I haven't, had to go through, some tougher roads. I have that ability to replace them, clean them, or I don't have to wear them every day. You can see that obviously with the wear and tear. I don't have to wear them every day. Your heel will be worn down more. I'm not doing that much walking in them, and I get more out of the shoe obviously that way too. And on my journey, being able to have obviously more than one pair or 2-3 different pairs, or a pair of shoes for certain climates or certain weather. I have hiking shoes. I have maybe rain boots or something like that, something that's waterproof, so I have to wear the same shoe in every situation. Some people have shoes that aren't. That shoe's not meant for the rain, or that shoe's not meant for running. That shoe's not. That shoe slips. That doesn't have a good sole at the bottom. You're going to slip in that shoe. You wear it on ice. But I have that freedom. I guess on my journey, I can buy, or I can pick that shoe. I have that wear. At least I know. I'm saying I could buy it. I have a lot of money. No, but I have that wherewithal to know hey, it's a certain shoe for a certain weather, or certain time in the season. So, and yeah.
How would you say you treat yourself in comparison to your everyday shoe?
How do I treat myself compared to
your
how I treat
everyday
my
shoe?
shoes?
Yeah.
Well, comparatively, because generally you take more time for self-care on yourself. The shoe, you don't. Maybe if I had to wear this shoe or it had to be displayed, or it needed to be neat, or it needed to look a certain way, then I would put more care into it. But for yourself, for my body, I have to automatically put more care into my body. I have to automatically be able to gauge my emotions or know where I am mentally. That's a big thing for me. When when you're bipolar, you have to be able to gauge your mood and know how you're feeling. What do you do What do you need to do for yourself to feel a different way? What do you need to do for yourself to relax? What do you need to do to yourself to calm down or stay in a positive mind state? So, yeah, compared to the shoe, to myself, because like I said, like the shoe, if I wore it more, if it was on display more, if it was being judged more, I would put more time into it. I would care more about it. When it comes to myself, I am at every day, I am on display for the world. People are going to judge me based off of my behavior or my mood, or my appearance. Because it's still, it's your appearance, and it's also, it's your energy or how you are mentally and how you're interacting with everybody. So yeah, so I put more self-care or more, attention to myself than I would, my shoes. That, like I said, as long as it's not too dirty, as long as it's not too bad, I'm kind of cool with it. I'm a U.S. vet, and this is a day in my shoes.